Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Catch, Table, and Tap in Merrillville, corner of 30 and Broadway. This is Region Sports Table Talk. Nathan Laird, co-host Jay Simmons. This week, we're joined by the new head coach of the Griffith Panthers, which is still really exciting for, as a Griffith grad, for me to say. Phil Mason, Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, going over to Griffith this year after a very successful career, not only at Michigan City and Andrean. I was, doing some background research today, looking things up. You've been a head coach in the region since '99, is that?
Yeah, 99.
That's you got to be like the region longest tenured guy now, outside of a couple years when you were assistant at Andrean. But what's been the drive for you to continue to be a head coach for this long?
Just what you do, Looking back about a year ago, I was really contemplating retirement. I mean, I'll get into kind of a cool story at some point during the Zionsville semi-state game. Since my wife Dee's over here, but when the whole Griffith thing came about, it was all family related. It's what we do. It's what we do as a family. It's Friday Night Lights. My son who played for me at Andrean, my daughter who tagged along to every Andrean game after being a Lake Central cheerleader. One of the coolest things is my daughter and her husband, at that time her boyfriend, on a Friday night when we were playing a semi-state game at Fort Wayne Lures, drive across the state on a Friday night to be at the game. Wow. That's what we do, and now our grandson. And so, I don't play golf. It's what we do.
That's been kind of a theme. I think every coach we've talked to outside of maybe one has mentioned, I don't play golf. Like, that's kind of a thing among coaches. Have you noticed that in the coaching community as well?
I think it used to be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that now the time that's consumed all summer long and just the amount of everything you got to put into it, you just don't have time for it.
Right. So, again, it started at Clark in 99. You've been at
Clark at 99, yeah.
Clark, Wheeler, Andrean, Michigan City, now Griffith. Talk about, completely different ends of a spectrum that you can get in the region. How have you noticed, the differences in the programs and communities, even going back to 99 to today?
Yeah, and even before that, I was an assistant at East Chicago. Clark was really neat. It was a lot of fun. We had great kids there. They embraced myself. They embraced my little kids. I guess probably the neatest part about this is I watched my kids grow up through it. I can remember even when I was an assistant at East Chicago to start, my son being on the sideline of a game, being on the shoulders of some of our players,
Oh, wow.
And then my daughter Hannah being a cheerleader, a mascot cheerleader at Clark for the first time. And, a lot of those kids I still have contact with and talk to them, and they, those pictures pop up once my daughter got married and had her son. Just great experience, and then going to Wheeler, a lot of things I'm proud of about Wheeler. Just some great kids I got to coach, man. You talk about some of those games. I remember that Bishop Knoll game when we went 9-0 in that one year, and the game that Andrew Patton had. And, go to his wedding. Just great kids, and My son is kind of what brought me to Andrean, because when he made a decision that that's where he really wanted to go to school, then it got kind of thrown in Brett's lap, and Brett St. Germain, and what are you going to do? And, I said, I'm going to sit up in the stands and do what everybody else does to you. He said, oh, no, you're not.
So Brett didn't give you an option there.
No, you're not. No. I was assistant for Brett, and then Father Quans and Tim Sirkovich came in and said, hey, we'd love for you to take this over. And, that was just an incredible opportunity to be the head coach in Andrean. And then moving on to Michigan City, that was really a challenge that Dee put forward to me. I'm not going to lie to you, the not being in public school and worrying about retirement and those types of things. And I had applied for a couple jobs down in Indianapolis, got offered one, particular Lawrence Central, and, turned it down. And then the Michigan City people reached out to me, and she really challenged me. I can remember word for word. We spent a day at Michigan City, and I walked her out in the parking lot and said, "So what do you think?" And she looked at me and said, "If you think you're as good as you think you are, you'll take this job. These kids need somebody like you." Well, there you go. There's a challenge.
I think we're going to take the
wife.
microphone away from you, give it to Dee, and have Dee say it. Sounds like she's the one running the show.
But I mean, it's always been family based for me. It always has been. So, and it's been great.
Griffith and Grand rivalry back in those days. It was something fun, wasn't it?
Absolutely incredible. And we're talking to the Griffith kids about that all the time now. When you interviewed me when I got the job.
Mm-hmm.
Preparation. We would, when we were in Andran, we would talk to the kids about time management, travel, their homework, all that stuff. But literally, you knew leading up to Griffith, you were going to spend days prior to the week before working on Griffith stuff. Okay, and then once it hit, I'm not kidding you. Maybe not Phil Mason practices, but Brett St. Germain practices 9:00 at night.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe a few Phil Mason practices, thrown in there. But that's just. I'm not going to tell you that that's, and I mean this the right way. It was just the respect, whether or not you felt like that's what you needed to prepare. That was the respect you had about that rivalry. Mm-hmm. That's what you had to get through to the kids, but that's what that rivalry meant.
Have you thought about, with how many great games you coached there and witnessed there, being on the visitor side, your first home game, being on the home side, how different that's going to feel for you?
I definitely have. I mean, I've stood over there and looked across and you
think
about everything.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong side here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just phenomenal. I mean, just the environment, what the environment was back then. I told this story. I think it was in 2010, maybe 2012. We got so tired of the pregame antics that we warmed up at St. Mary's, had a county cop, because she was the mom of one of our players at Andran. So we're over at St. Mary's warming up. We tell the kids, put your stuff on, get on the bus. It's 7 minutes before kickoff, lights and sirens. We go over, get out, jump off, run right to the sideline. Captains run right on the field. We just weren't going to get involved in it. I mean, it was so intimidating, But and that was also just some fun that we wanted to have with them.
You guys, instead of taking the bus, you should have walked right down Elm Street there, walked to the stadium. Maybe not everybody would have made it there, but that would have been cool as well. What are, again, talking about that kind of atmosphere at Griffith, do you feel any sort of pressure, or what are the challenges to kind of revive that and bring that atmosphere back to the Boneyard on a Friday?
I think as coaches, we always put pressure on ourselves, I don't think as much as pressure as I want to have fun doing this. I want to be able to somehow sit there and say, hey, I helped get this thing back to a competitive level. I know there's been some talk about, could we ever make that jump back to the other conference? We'll see. I mean, we're going to do everything we can just to be successful where we're at right now, but we're doing everything we can to get the numbers up. We've got great kids. I'm going to tell you, they're hard-working kids. I have kids that could play, that are working for us now, and they're freshmen and sophomores, but I could tell you could play for me anywhere I've coached.
Wow.
So those are great, hard-working kids that are just, it's a joy to be around them.
What's the difference between, like, when you walked into, say, Wheeler or Andran or Michigan City, now you're walking into Griffith?
I think this reminds me a lot of when I took over at Wheeler. Wheeler had only played football for 1 year, and so you're creating a new interest in the program. You're trying to build a completely from ground up culture of this is how we're going to do things. And yet you have to understand that a lot of the kids that you're working with haven't been exposed to traditional football.
Right.
And what I mean by traditional football is the Griffith tradition. I've gotten letters from attorney. I got a letter from some big attorney that played on the 1963 Griffith team from Canton, Ohio today. And he's reading a story about bringing Griffith football back, I don't know if we'll do that, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to be competitive. We're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and we were talking beforehand. Some of the younger players you have on your roster as well. You still got time to mold them and develop them during the summer. But with that, you're not in the building yet. What's been the biggest challenge there? With you're there, what, a couple days a week after school?
I've been getting over there quite a bit, and spending as much time as I can. I think what'll be the big challenge will be the younger kids. We're doing spring 6th, 7th grade football right now. We've got about 25 kids out. They're going to have an Arama Thursday, which we're looking forward to. I think it's getting those 8th graders that are going to become freshmen next year. And we're going to have a meeting with those kids on Thursday to sit down and talk with them, all the 8th graders. I'm going to meet with all the 8th graders and explain to them that we want to play freshman football with you guys. We don't want those kids to not have a purpose in the program to be able to grow in the program. If they're going against quote-unquote varsity players every day and they don't have the chance to compete for a position, they're not going to come out. They're not going to be bag holders. They're not going to stand on the sideline on Friday. They got to have a purpose, and their purpose has to be to play. So we have to provide that opportunity for them to play. By getting those young numbers up, which we are right now, I mean, we're a very young team. I think that will create the culture that we're looking for. That'll help our program grow.
Yeah, it sounds like, again, you get those young kids excited, get them wanting to look forward to those years where they get to be a Panther on Friday night, put on that gold helmet, and get excited to play football at Griffith. We got plenty more coming up here on Region Sports Table Talk, coming to you from Catch Table and Tap with Phil Mason, head coach of the Griffith Panthers. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be back after this here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Did you know?
Wow, they'll prepare fresh fish while you wait.
Did you know?
They make over 40,000 donuts from scratch every week?
Did you know?
They offer 23 different deli platters for your party?
Did you know?
They have freshly chopped fajita mix ready to cook.
Did you know?
They have the best fried chicken in the area?
Did you know?
They offer our signature curbside service 14 hours a day.
Strack and Van Til, now you know.
Thinking about what to do after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
Back here with Region Sports Table Talk at Catch Table and Tap in Merrillville. Nathan Laird, Jay Simmons, Phil Mason, head coach of the Griffith Panthers. We've talked a lot about your new gig at Griffith, but I want to backtrack a little bit. We mentioned, talked a little bit about Clark earlier. Apparently, Fort Pioneer is going to be demolished, for lack of a better term, in the next month or so. I was going to say, do you have any favorite stand-up memories from being at Fort Pioneer?
Well, I'll tell you what. My second year, Week 9, Whiting at Fort Pioneer.
So a huge rivalry.
Huge rivalry. We immensely improved. Big game. Remember, a kid named Bobby Gajewski made a great interception for a touchdown. It was a big win. I want to say it was like 35-14. Just a phenomenal win. It was amazing to do it there at that place. We had a big win against Gavitt there. That was a lot of fun. Practicing out there, dealing with all the goose crap. Learning how logistically to move a football team. Never been in an experience like that before. Where it's only a block and a half away, but kids got to get down the street and get there. We actually did a kind of a neat thing too, where we kind of moved the weight room out there to make it our winter home and everything. There's some great kids, man. One of the kid, Danny Lyman, whose son's now playing over at Hobart, who I just still have a great relationship with. Got him out his senior year. He was an all-state player for us. Guy go through the Pat Long, who played quarterback for us. Jimmy Penna, just great kids, man. It was a blast.
That facility, not the nicest facility in the region. I don't think I'm
telling
any secrets there. But there's just something about, it's always colder up there. So it was always football weather at Fort Pioneer. And it just always felt like a great environment on a Friday or Saturday night.
And the community really embraced football there too. So, yeah, it was a neat little place. It really was. It's going to be sad to see that go down.
Yeah, that's happening, unfortunately, pretty soon. So we're going to be talking to some other folks connected to the Clark program about that coming up, and had to get your impressions on that. And you're talking about some of your other jobs. We only kind of briefly touched on Andrean a little bit, and you had a little bit of success at 5959 Broad, just a little bit. Again, that program has historically been very good. But you kind of took it to another level with that, was it a 29-game winning streak at one point, an undefeated 15-0 state title season. When you're kind of clicking on all cylinders there at Andrean, it almost seems like from an outsider's perspective, like the teams internally, they support each other, but you're also like, all right, who's going to be the next one to win state, between football, basketball, and baseball. Is that kind of the way it works internally there?
I just think that the kids, there's such a competitive nature there. The culture is competitive. When you walk in that building, academically, the kids are they're competitive, It is just, for me, I will say, it was the greatest place to be. It was. It's an amazing place. The culture is just beyond. Fridays in that building are all about football. One of the things that gives me goosebumps now is Friday, as soon as that bell rings, going down to chapel and going to pregame mass, and watching your kids in that pregame mass, and watching the tradition of seniors are in front, juniors, sophomores, and any freshmen that are going to dress. And then anybody else that's a special guest coming to that mass, participating in it. Just sets the mindset for what's about to take place. And then, you talk about fields. I mean, I don't know if there's more of a nostalgic place than Andrean, walking down that road. And
when you're on the visiting side, it's a long walk.
Yeah, but it's just so, and the kids embrace it. It's not the greatest facility in the world, but the kids embrace it. It's their own, and it's special. And it's an awesome place to be a part of. I mean, it was really hard to leave. I'm not going to lie to you. It was really hard.
It's one of the few places in Northwest Indiana it still is grass.
Yeah.
You think about it, it's them, and off the top of my head is Lowell.
River Forest, Lake Station.
Okay, a few of the smaller
Bishop
schools.
Knoll,
A few of the smaller schools, but it seems like that grass and that tradition is really, even going through all of this past couple of years at Andrean, it just seems like it never stops.
And there was Pete Reist, when I was there, was our maintenance guy, the old soccer coach. And there was such great pride in that. I remember in 2014, we're playing Mishawaka-Marion sectional championship game. Friday night. It's Friday about 12:30. It is raining, sleeting. You can imagine it coming down. It's coming down. And I had just learned to use an iPhone and FaceTime somebody.
You can teach Jay at something.
So Reggie Glon's the head coach at Mishawaka-Marion, and I walk out to Bill Mueller and I drive golf cart out there. I get on this FaceTime, probably the first time I ever did it, to be honest with you. And I said, Coach, do you want to play in this tonight? And I'm showing him the field. And he looks at me and he goes, do we have another option? I said, yeah. This thing will drain. We'll get it taken care of. Let's do it tomorrow. Okay? Coach, I'm all in. I don't want to deal with that. Great. So I think we kicked off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you go back and watch the tape, you'd almost think we were playing on turf because they did such a great job of getting that field back in the condition it needed to be in to play. And you think about it, you're playing freshman football, you're playing JV football, playing varsity football, boys and girls soccer.
Right.
But Pete took care of that field, man. And that's one of my favorite all-time games in Andrean. There's a picture. We have a big canvas picture of my daughter with our golden retriever wearing my son's Letterman's jacket in the end zone at the kickoff of that game. It's really cool pictures.
Well, you stole my next question. I was going to ask, what are your, outside of the state championship games, what's kind of the most memorable game you coached in? Because even off the top of my head, I can think of Some of them, unfortunately, like the Fog game didn't go your guys' way, but that's a memorable game.
That was a great game, and unfortunately that, Dimitri got literally knocked out.
Yeah.
He got knocked out, and Matt had to come in and do what he could do. And
almost like you guys on a game-winning touchdown as a freshman?
Yeah, that was a really good South Bend St. Joe team we played that year. I mean, that was kind of the end of their Lowell, Munster, always a battle. I think Munster, and people don't realize it. Munster, Andrean, a lot of Munster kids went to Andrean, Lowell, huge battle. Hobart. I mean, just those battles were just unbelievable. I remember.
I was going to say, back in that day, it seemed like that conference was loaded from top to bottom.
Top to bottom. Yeah. I mean, KV would come, hey, we're going to upset you guys. I mean, I remember in the 2013 year, we're up 7-0 at halftime against KV. I mean, I think what you had to understand was when you were at Andrean, everybody had, I don't want to say everybody's Super Bowl. That's not fair.
But you guys had a target on your back.
But there's no doubt you had a target. You knew. You had to tell the kids. We would tell them. We would get frustrated when we used to open up with Bishop Knoll because it's sloppy, and it's because it's Bishop Knoll. Don't do this.
Right.
I think what I really loved was when we started playing Merrillville, and that really would set the tone for our season. And then we would scrimmage Crown Point at Crown Point all the time. Those were important tools for Andrean's success.
Did your guys there embrace kind of that mentality of having the target on their back and being everybody wants to beat us just because, again, we're the private school. No disrespect to Bishop Knoll, but when it comes to football, you guys, we're the private school in the region. Did you guys they didn't shy away from that or anything?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, goodness, if I sit here and tell you the names, I mean, even as an assistant coach, the kids that I was coaching there, Mackin and Pachalski and those guys, and then Kyle Kovac I had for a year as a tailback. Oh, my goodness. And then Dimitri Blanco, who's now coaching with me at Griffith, to have him and fortunate enough to coach my son. And then moving into that whole 2012, 13, 14 era with those kids. I mean, what a group. What a group of guys. I mean, just Trevor Berg, Mason. I could go on and on. There's hundreds of names I could read off that are just tremendous football players from the region that, I was fortunate enough to be a part of their career.
You guys went to state, it was 2014 and 15?
13 and
14. What was the first time you went to the Dome and was in 13? Was that the first time you went down to the field?
So unbelievable. You get that Wednesday trip down there and you take the buses down and, the kids don't understand that the buses are going to go underneath the stadium and you go underneath the stadium and you get off and you walk out there and you get an hour and they're pretty stringent about it. They put 60 minutes up on the clock and I told the staff I had a 60-minute practice plan. It was actually about a 55-minute practice plan. First 5 minutes, let them be kids. Just go. Just go. We have kids literally doing snow angels, in the middle of the field. And so we get them settled down. We get in, we do dynamic, we warm up, and we're going to special teams right away. And this is kind of a unique story. We're kicking off, and Donovan Chandler, who made the interception at the end of the 2013, he's our kickoff return guy, and they're kicking off, and the ball's going into the windows, and they don't have all the lights on, and he can't see it. He's losing the ball, all right? Now, this is supposed to be one of the most joyful experiences in a kid's life, right? This ball's being kicked off. We kick off. He can't see it. Ball hits the ground. All right, relax. We'll do it again. What's up? I couldn't see it. Do it again. Same thing. We're going to do it one more time. Same result. And you walk up to the kid, and he's got tears coming down his eyes. Hey, and literally Robert Falkins kind of walked out and said, told him, son, that it's not going to be that way. I go, hey, maybe we should be smart and turn the thing around so he could see the ball, So we did, and it ended up being a great experience. And then
he makes one of the biggest plays in the state championship game.
What a play. It's funny. I'll never forget. There were people, I got messages. Oh, you didn't do a very good job. He should have slid, and because if you would have slid, the game would have been over.
Right.
Yeah, you do that. You do that.
Right.
You do that with a kid.
But I think you and I
the kid's on the break. What do you want me to do?
Right. I think
taking it in.
Yeah, I think you and I talked about it after the game when I went down to interview, and I kind of brought up the same thing. Like, were you telling him to slide, and you're like, how do I tell a kid not to?
Well, he's gone. He's gone. He's on the break. He's gone.
And how do you blame a 17, 18-year-old kid for?
And I was excited.
Yeah, you can house one in the state championship game. Of course, you're going to do it.
You know, and that was a scary finish to that game. I mean,
Yeah,
Buff was a really good team and that was a great football game. It really was.
How did the experience, the preparation for a game differ between the 2 straight years you guys were? Obviously, the result, unfortunately, different for you, but
well, there's a big story about the 2014 year because so we go to Lures on Saturday, and I'm always one of those coaches that I try to puzzle the thing a little bit. If we're going to get that extra day, I want to get that extra day.
Mm-hmm.
So that year, 3A was going to be on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to drive to Lures on a Friday after school. Right. I don't want to get the kids out of school. We're going to go on Saturday. Lures agreed. The state agreed. Great win. Unbelievable win.
Game-winning field goal.
Austin kicks the game-winning field goal. So we get back Saturday night and kind of give the kids, hey, listen, this is what's going to happen Monday. Plans, film, all this stuff. Sunday morning, I wake up, I get a phone call from Bill Mueller. We got a problem. Okay, what's the problem? We've had some kids in the building diagnosed with swine flu. They're going to call school the rest of the week. Well, we were only going to have school Monday and Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that Monday and Tuesday at Andran are a football fiesta.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
There ain't nothing.
You got a pep rally.
Yeah, I mean, kids are having a blast. Everybody's excited. So to lose that first and foremost was really hard on the kids. Now it gets to Sunday night, and we're not going to be able to practice on Monday. We're finding out that kids are really sick, okay? So I'm able to do a off-campus meeting with our starters at one of our players' houses. And I do that on Monday, all right? And I'm looking at our kids, and we got sick kids here. This is a problem, okay? I got kids wearing masks, and everything. Okay, so we get through that meeting. We kind of say, we're going to practice tomorrow. We're going to practice at the Dome in Crown Point. We'll meet and have film before that and blah, blah, blah. So long story short, we were sick. We had kids really sick all week, all right? We didn't go down to practice that year because we were sick. Get down there Saturday. We feel really good. We had a good game plan. We were getting Barajas back off his injury, which we were really excited about. I think the kids were really excited to get Josh back. Josh starts out the game right away blocking a punt. I think, if I remember right, we were up 21-0 before anybody knew where we were.
Pretty quick,
14-0. And then it ended up being 21-21 at halftime. And we go in at halftime, and coaches are all giving me all their input and everything. And I'm kind of just looking in the locker room. I said, guys, stop. Look at our guys. And you just saw a bunch of kids sitting in there, towels over their head like, holy cow, we got bigger problems.
Right.
I attribute that to a lot of things. I attribute that to 3 years in a row for our seniors of playing, our summer, which is rigorous, semi-state, state, Right. Did we get worn down? Did we? Yeah, I think we did. I think everything just kind of built up in Tri-West favor, and then they ran the opening kickoff of the second half back for a touchdown, and we just couldn't find a way to get back into it. That was a great team. I mean, Jake Paliga, I'll tell you what, everybody talks about Matt DeSomer. Jake Paliga against Mishawaka Marion played probably the best game I've ever seen a quarterback play in the high school level.
Yeah,
that kid played that was an unbelievable game.
I think especially following Matt, that people don't look at, you look at the numbers that Jake put up that year, and they he was super impressive.
Very impressive.
Threw a ton of touchdowns and everything. And,
Yep.
A real good quarterback that kind of flew under the radar for you guys.
Absolutely.
So after Andrain, you go to Michigan City. We talked about kind of making that decision. And that was a program that had long been described as a sleeping giant. Mm-hmm. We had heard for years on our side of this that you get the right guy at Michigan City, they're going to be a good program.
You had a plethora of athletes, and you had
numbers.
The numbers, two big high schools coming into one. It just seemed like nobody was able to make it work until you got there.
Yeah, and it was a program that had never won a sectional title, and then you take them to 3 semi-states. Where does it go from day one at City to the culmination of your run there?
I will tell you what, I think a lot of things happened at City that were the perfect storm for me. Number one was the staff I was able to put together, having Roy with me. I think the kids that we came into were, especially the seniors and juniors, were a really high character, good group of football knowledgeable kids that really were striving for success and culture. Also our administration, Wendell McCullum being the principal, and just that whole direction really helped guide us. And the kids bought into the yin and yang of Phil Mason and Roy Richards, because I was the driver, I was the discipline, and Roy was the football fun, get the guys out.
Yeah, that good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, and it worked really well. And man, we had some great players. I mean, Michael McCullough, quarterback, was just phenomenal. I mean, you look at Buck, Arion Kane, VC, and Marquise Hurton. Then a kid that's still playing, Braden Fisk. Braden had a spinal injury that was really concerning at one point. Mm-hmm. And now here's Braden. Boy, was that a fun time when Braden was just getting recruited this past season. Man, I was getting phone calls.
He was at Western, right?
Braden was at Western Michigan, got his 6th year COVID, was contemplating whether to go to the draft. Had a little labrum issue that he had to get worked on, so he couldn't do many pro days. So I was really kind of pushing him to go into the portal. Braden, go in the portal, see what happens. And he was very honest, Coach, is that going to happen? And then, good thing, bad thing, Tim Lester, who was the head coach at Western Michigan, who's a great friend, great guy, unfortunately was let go. So that allowed Braden to go into the portal a week earlier.
Okay.
And I said, Braden, you got to go. You got to go. So that was the Monday morning, and he called me and we talked for a while, and he said, well, let me talk to my parents. Well, I'm going to tell you, by 11 o'clock, I knew he was in the portal when Lane Kiffin and every coach in the country, head coach in the country, basically was blowing up my phone asking me what was going on. So ended up at Florida State. Unbelievable. He's doing awesome. I think you'll see Braden Fisk come out next year. Hopefully 3rd, 4th round in the NFL draft. He's a great kid.
Were those better conversations than your Brian Kelly conversation?
Oh, the Brian Kelly.
I always have to bring it up when I talk to you. I'm sorry. It's my favorite story of all time.
The Brian Kelly conversation. Unbelievable.
We can't say those words on air.
Boy, he's something, isn't he? Yeah.
And he didn't even have the Southern accent yet.
No. But that was a lot of fun, too. It's a lot of fun when your kids are getting recruited like that. You get the opportunity to deal with those college coaches and get that kind of exposure and get to talk with those guys. You learn a lot. When those guys come in, I'm always picking their brain for what's really cultural things, not X's and O's things. And X's and O's are X's and O's in football. There's no secrets there, but it's how are you dealing with the kids that you're dealing with, and how are we getting kids to become leaders, and how are you getting to buy into your culture, and what standards do you set for them? Especially as freshmen coming in, how are you dealing with that? And even those guys are struggling with it. It's tough times, guys. It's a little bit different, but the kids that we have playing they're great kids. You got to keep working. I've had more kids come up to me. I've had kids from Michigan City come up to me and say, I hear you're hitting the halls of Griffith pretty hard. Yeah. I want those kids to experience this. I want them to be a part of something,
And one last question before we take a quick break. You walked in at Andrain, you're getting the athletes as freshmen. How did you get the whole program from Pop Warner to all the way to the high school to buy in Michigan City? Were you able to work with the Pop Warner people and all the way through? I know every district's a little bit different.
I wasn't able to spend as much time with the Pop Warner as I wanted to. I really got our middle school to buy in. I did. I mean, I set some standards by which I wanted to have happen, and those standards were set forth. Middle school really went well for me there. You know, the Pop Warner identity in Michigan City is a good one. Okay, but they also kind of have their own standards and ideas, which I set out respect for. I always said to those guys, I am a resource to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Right. You know. All
right. So Jay lied. We do have one more thing before we go to break here because we got our speed round coming up after break. You mentioned the semi-state against Zionsville. A good story from Michigan City. So before we go to break, while we're on the topic of Michigan City, want to hear about this Zionsville semi-state?
So it was really cool. I mean, one thing about my family is they're always kind of down in the end zone. Lot of history there, a lot of tradition there about Dee and I always seeing each other before the game, and I'll come down and give her a hug. And so before the Zionsville game, I didn't see her right before the Zionsville game. And anyway, we're going into the game, and we kind of talked a little bit about this might be my last season. And she's never approached me ever once the ball's kicked, never. And we're in the middle of a drive, and we're actually coming from west to east. So all of a sudden, Tyler Bush is coming up to me, and I call the play, and I look, and there's Dee, like right next to me in the box on the 50-yard line. And I'm like, pull the mic down. What are you doing? Like, what's going on? She goes, I don't know if I'll ever see you do this again. I want to see how you do this. And it was really cool because 2 plays later, Tyler hits Gio for a touchdown, and she gets to kind of see that. And she was right there, and she kind of heard all that interaction, all the verbiage, kind of how that all process goes. And I think to share that with your wife, who's been with you through since you were 14, is a pretty neat experience.
I'm a little sad we have another segment. We can't just close the show on that. That's a great story. That's one of my favorite stories we've heard doing Region Sports Table Talk. We do have one more. We got the speed round coming up. We're going to hit you with some quick questions. Most of them softball questions. Most of them.
Softball?
Well, not like the sport, but like easy questions for the most part. So we got that coming up here on the other side of this timeout here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Hi, I'm Crowell Company's Lantern Man. I'll cover your motorcycle. I'll be with you on the water. I'll be with you on the snow. I'll cover your insurance needs wherever you go. I'll be at Crowell Agency from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. As Crowell Company's Lantern Man, I'm your insurance superhero.
Crowell Companies, the insurance professionals in Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
From schools to stadiums, hospitals, and bridges, everywhere you look, union carpenters are building Indiana. With jobs and skilled trades in high demand, there's never been a better time to start building your future. As an apprentice, you'll earn a debt-free college degree, earn while you learn, and receive great benefits like healthcare and retirement. So what are you waiting for? Visit carpenters.com to learn more. Visit carpenters.com and start building your future today.
Back here at Catch Table and Tap one final time with Region Sports Table Talk. Nathan Laird, Jay Simmons, Phil Mason. We got the speed round. Don't be too nervous, Coach. They're easy for the most part. So, Claude, you got the timer on the clock. Claude Martinez got the timer on the clock. Here we go. Favorite football player of all time at any level?
Wow. Well, it's Walter Payton.
Okay.
Hands down, yeah.
All right. Favorite assistant football coach?
Oof. I would say Bob Camara. Undoubtedly, Bob Camara. Yep.
Your favorite football team growing up?
Chicago Bears.
Oddly enough, you're the first coach we've had on to do this that have said the Bears. We've had Packers. We've had Lions. You're the first one to say the Bears.
Yep. Favorite to coach against?
Russ Radke. Absolutely. hands down. Yep.
If you weren't a teacher or coach, what would you be doing?
Wow. I'd probably be like a mill rat or something. I don't know, man. That's not a good question.
All right. Favorite sport that isn't football?
Baseball. Absolutely.
A hobby you have that isn't football related in any way, shape, or form. And we know it's not golf.
Well, we were into boating for a long time. That was kind of our big thing. We're kind of getting out of that now because of the grandkids. So that would be boating. Yeah.
Best player you've ever coached?
Wow. I'm going to give it to him. Andrew Patton from Wheeler. I asked that kid to do absolutely everything. I mean, he kicked off. He kicked extra points. I think he long snapped and then punted at the same time. Yeah, Andrew was really a cool kid to coach. That's a special kid.
All right, Phil, we got one last one for you. I need you to finish the song lyric.
Oh, boy.
Ziggity boom rah rah, ziggity boom rah rah.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, it's hoorah wee rah, Griffith high rah rah. You got to learn that at some point. You knew I was going to throw that in there at some point. You knew I was. You got to learn the ziggity boom rah rah. You have a few more months.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna get him to do it on air at some point. Coach, thanks for joining us, for spending some time with us here at
It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
This has been Catch Table and Tap. Our executive producer is Chris Ramirez. Claude Martinez spinning the dials, making sure we look and sound good. My co-host Jay Simmons. Jay, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure working with you, Nathan.
We thank everybody for tuning in. We will talk to you guys next week here from Catch Table and Tap here on the Region Sports Network, the only game in town.
Region Sports Network, the only game in town.